and I'll let you have it for for old time's sake.
Crossovers are supposed to feel like a big party. 2 shows, 1 episode, everybody wins. In kids' TV, though, crossovers often felt less like a party, and more like your little cousin grabbing 2 action figures from completely different shelves and screaming, "Now kiss! I mean fight!" And the best part? The shows almost never eased you into it. They didn't gently open the door and say, "Hey, here's a logical reason these characters would meet." No. Kids' TV would kick the door off the hinges and shout, "They're together now. Don't ask questions. Look, there's a cameo." Because crossovers weren't built for logic. They were built for momentum. The network wanted an event. The writers wanted a gimmick. And the audience wanted that electric feeling of seeing 2 worlds collide. So the rules got flexible. Animation styles clashed. Tones collided. Personalities that worked perfectly in their own bubble suddenly had to share oxygen with characters who operated on totally different physics. And that's how you end up with episodes that feel like a fever dream you're only 80% sure actually happened, until someone mentions one specific scene and your brain goes, "Wait, yes, that was real." So today, we're counting down 10 times kids' shows crossed over in the weirdest ways. The ones that felt like television accidentally hit shuffle, landed on a second series, and decided to just commit. Some of these are fun, some are chaotic, and a few are so strange you can practically hear the writer's room going, "We can do that," followed immediately by, "Too late, we already animated it." 10. Johnny Bravo, Scooby-Doo. There's a specific kind of weird that happens when you drop a loud character into a quiet formula. Scooby-Doo has a rhythm, spooky setup, suspicious clues, Shaggy and Scooby panic running through doors, a trap, and then the smug unmasking. Now imagine that rhythm getting body checked by Johnny Bravo, walking in like he owns the place. Hair perfectly sculpted, confidence dialed to laws of nature don't apply to me, and absolutely convinced every mystery is actually about him. That's the crossover's whole magic trick. Tone collision. The Scooby Gang is basically a well-oiled machine. Johnny is a blender with no lid. So every scene becomes this tug of war between solve the mystery and Johnny, please stop flirting with the danger. And the funniest part is how naturally the gang reacts to him. Because in their world, they've dealt with spooky castles, swamp monsters, and people dressed like ghost clowns. But Johnny Bravo? That might actually be the most confusing thing they've encountered. He's not scared of the villain, because why would he be? Johnny's scared of nothing. He's scared of rejection. He's scared of being ignored. So he treats the entire mystery like a stage where he can do his Johnny thing. And meanwhile, Scooby and Shaggy are just trying to survive the episode without catching secondhand embarrassment. It's a crossover that works because it doesn't pretend these worlds are compatible. It leans into the incompatibility. Scooby-Doo is about fear and suspicion. Johnny Bravo is about swagger and delusion. Put them together and you get a weird, hilarious mess, like a haunted house tour led by someone who keeps stopping to admire himself in the mirrors. And if that sounds chaotic, just wait. 9. Power Rangers in Space, TMNT, The Next Mutation. This crossover has the vibe of walking into a toy store in the late 90s and watching 2 aisles start arguing. On one side, sleek spacesuit heroes doing dramatic poses and talking about destiny. On the other, martial arts turtles who can't resist a joke even when the world is ending. So when these 2 shows collide, the first thing you notice is the energy mismatch. Power Rangers in Space is trying to keep the stakes high. The universe is in danger. Kind of stuff. The Next Mutation is like, sure, but what if someone gets bonked on the head while we say something snarky? And yet, that mismatch is exactly why it's so memorable, because it feels like you're watching 2 different kinds of childhood excitement meet in the middle. The Rangers bring the serious hero mission vibe. The turtles bring the "we're doing ninja stuff, but we're having fun" vibe. The crossover leans into that team-up fantasy kids love. More characters, more costumes, more fight scenes, more shouting. It's basically a playground imagination episode with a budget. You can almost hear a kid yelling, "And then the turtles help the Rangers." No, wait. The Rangers help the turtles. Actually, both. What makes it Weirdest Ways material is that the worlds don't really try to harmonize. They just smash together and keep moving. Different tone rules, different dialogue style, different kinds of villains. None of it matters because the crossover's main job is to deliver that "what? They're in the same scene" feeling. And it succeeds. Because even if you're watching it thinking, "How is any of this happening?" you're also thinking, "Okay, but this is kind of awesome." And speaking of "how is this happening?", next one literally changes how reality looks. 8. The Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. Most crossovers ask you to accept one big idea. These two worlds are connected. The Jimmy Timmy Power Hour asks you to accept something even bigger. These two worlds are connected, and they don't even share the same dimension of animation. You've got Timmy Turner living in squishy, bouncy, chaotic 2D cartoon logic, where physics is basically a suggestion and wishes can rewrite the universe before dinner. And then, you've got Jimmy Neutron in a glossy CGI world where everything looks like plastic, science is the solution, and the chaos usually comes from inventions going wrong. So the crossover's first flex is purely visual. You watch characters travel between worlds, and suddenly they're redesigned on the fly, like the universe is updating their operating system. That alone makes it feel like an event, because it's not just a cameo. It's a full-on collision of styles. But the real fun is the personality clash. Timmy is a kid who wants shortcuts. Jimmy is a kid who wants control. Timmy's answer to a problem is, "I wish it away." Jimmy's answer is, "I built a device to fix it." Put them together, and you basically get two different kinds of chaos feeding off each other. And because each show has its own internal rules, the crossover gets to play this game, where both kids think their way makes the most sense. Timmy sees science as overcomplicated. Jimmy sees wishes as irresponsible. And both are right. Which means both are doomed the second they team up. It's weird in the best way, because it's ambitious. It doesn't feel like the network's quietly traded characters for 5 minutes. It feels like a full-scale experiment. What if we actually merged the two biggest kid genius universes on Nickelodeon and let them break each other? And when it works, it hits that perfect nostalgia nerve. The feeling that your favorite shows weren't just separate things. You could smash them together and create something new. Which brings us to another Nick collision, where toddlers stumbled into a whole different genre. 7. Rugrats, The Wild Thornberries. Rugrats Go Wild. Rugrats is built on one central truth. Toddlers can turn a living room into the Amazon if they believe hard enough. The Wild Thornberries is built on another truth. The world is huge, loud, and full of actual danger, but also incredible. So when these two shows crossed over, the weirdness wasn't just two casts meet. It was two completely different kinds of adventure getting stitched together. Rugrats' adventures are chaotic and tiny. Misunderstandings, baby logic, imaginary stakes. Thornberry's adventures are big. Travel, wildlife, survival vibes, documentary energy. Put them together, and suddenly you've got diaper-era confusion colliding with real jungle-scale spectacle. The fun is watching how each group interprets the same situation. The Thornberries are used to actual travel danger. The Rugrats are used to turning a couch into a mountain. So the crossover becomes this constant translation problem. The world is real. The animals are real. The setting is real. But the babies are still operating on baby logic. And then you throw in the Thornberries' whole nature adventure tone, and the Rugrats' whole everything is a misunderstanding tone, and you get something that feels like a movie-length what if. It's weird because it's bold. It doesn't play it safe. It goes full on. New setting, bigger stakes, bigger cast, bigger story. It's not a quick gimmick. It's an actual event, one that tries to satisfy both audiences at the same time. And the nostalgia comes from that special feeling. This wasn't just another episode you caught randomly. This was the one you heard about, the one you planned around, the one that felt like Nickelodeon was saying, okay, we're doing something big. And if that was big, Disney eventually got so comfortable with crossovers, they started treating them like a casual vacation itinerary. 6. Lilo and Stitch, the series crossover tour. Stitch is a chaos gremlin with the energy of a toddler and the strength of a wrecking ball, which means the moment Disney realized they could drop him into other shows, it was basically inevitable. Because Stitch doesn't just visit another series, he infects it. These crossovers feel weird because they turn Disney Channel into a shared universe without ever fully explaining it. One week Stitch is crashing into one cast's world, the next week he's popping up somewhere else, and the show treats it like, yeah, of course this alien is doing a guest appearance. Anyway, plot. What makes it work is that Stitch is the perfect crossover character. He's simple. He wants fun, trouble, snacks, and maybe a little love if you catch him on a good day. That means he can bounce off any cast and instantly create conflict. Put Stitch in a school-based show, he's the new kid problem. Put Stitch in a hero-based show, he's the wild card problem. Put him anywhere, he's the why is everything on fire problem. And the crossover episodes love that. The fun isn't just seeing characters meet. It's seeing how different casts react to the same unstoppable force of nature. Some try to reason with him. Some try to contain him. Some accidentally encourage him. And Stitch, being Stitch, treats everyone like a potential partner in crime. The weirdest part is how quickly your brain accepts it. After 5 minutes, you're like, sure, Stitch belongs here too. That's crossover power. Not logic, but momentum and charm. And once Disney realized event crossovers were basically free hype, they leveled up. Why do one show-to-show crossover when you can do 3 in one night? 5. That's So Raven, The Sweet Life, Hannah Montana. This is the one that felt like Disney Channel looked directly at your TV schedule and said, cancel your plans. We're doing a crossover trilogy. The 3-show crossover works because it's structured like a relay race. One episode sets it up, the next carries the chaos, the third delivers the final everybody together payoff. And the whole time, it's selling the fantasy that Disney Channel wasn't just a network, it was a neighborhood. What makes it weird is how effortlessly the universe merges. Characters aren't just cameoing, they're interacting like they've always been part of the same ecosystem. You're suddenly watching familiar characters from totally different shows share storylines, share jokes, share awkward situations, and your brain's only response is, wait, so this whole time they've been living in the same world? It's also weird because the tone has to stretch. Raven brings that big reaction, big comedy energy. Sweet Life brings the hotel chaos ensemble energy. Hannah Montana brings the double life celebrity sitcom energy. Put them together, and the episode becomes this balancing act. Keep everyone recognizable, give everyone a moment, and somehow still have a plot. But that's what made it feel like an event. It wasn't subtle. It was a victory lap for the era where Disney Channel sitcoms dominated your weeknights. It's the kind of crossover that feels designed for sleepover conversations. Did you see who showed up? No. Wait. Then this happened. And the real nostalgia punch is that it reminds you how networks used to build anticipation. Not a random drop. Not a surprise upload. A scheduled, you must be here moment. Nick eventually answered that same urge. 2 fan bases. one big special, except their version came with a lot more screaming. 4. iCarly Victorious. This crossover feels like Nickelodeon took two separate groups of chaos and decided to see what happens when they share oxygen. On paper, it's easy. Both shows are set in a heightened teen sitcom reality where everything is louder, weirder, and slightly more cartoonish than real life. But in practice, the humor engines are different. iCarly is built around internet antics, prank energy, and characters who feel like they're always 2 seconds away from a bad idea. Victorious is built around performance, personality clashes, and this art school intensity where every character is dialed up in a different direction. So when they collide, the weirdness comes from the fact that the episode has to juggle two entire ensembles without losing the vibe of either show. It's like hosting a party where every friend group has their own inside jokes, and you're praying nobody starts a fight in the kitchen. The best part is watching the characters compare levels of normal. Because in iCarly world, the weird stuff feels like online weird. In Victorious world, the weird stuff feels like theater kid weird. Put them together, and everyone is looking at everyone else like, okay, so you're like this all the time? And because it's a special, everything gets bigger. Bigger runtime, bigger premise, bigger set pieces. That's what makes it memorable. It doesn't feel like a casual crossover. It feels like Nickelodeon saying, these are two of our biggest worlds. Let's smash them together and see if the building survives. It's weird, but it's the good kind of weird. The kind that makes you feel like you're watching a pop culture collision in real time. And if you think live-action crossovers get wild, Cartoon Network had a habit of crossovers that felt like you accidentally stepped into the wrong show and just decided to stay. 3. Codename: Kids Next Door. Billy and Mandy. This crossover is basically organized chaos meets supernatural chaos. Kids Next Door is built like a kid's spy agency. Rules, missions, gadgets, secret bases, and dramatic, we're saving the world. From adults, energy. Billy and Mandy is built like a cursed toy box. Grim Reapers, monsters, and Billy being a walking disaster. So when they cross over, the weirdness isn't just the plot. It's the way the vibes don't naturally fit, but the episode forces them to anyway, like someone zip-tying two different machines together and hoping sparks don't fly. The K&D kids are strategic. They plan. They have protocol. Billy doesn't have protocol. Billy has impulse. Mandy has vibes that could curdle milk. Grim has that exhausted, I did not sign up for this mood, which, honestly, makes him the perfect bridge between both shows, because he reacts to everything like a sane adult trapped in a cartoon. The crossover gets fun because each group exposes the other's weaknesses. The K&D kids are brave until they face something that isn't just a goofy adult villain, it's actual spooky supernatural nonsense. Meanwhile, Billy and Mandy thrives on supernatural nonsense. But they're not exactly built for organized teamwork. So scenes pop because everyone is slightly out of their element. The K&D kids are like, this isn't in the manual. Grim is like, of course it isn't. Billy is like, manual? Can I eat it? It's weird in that classic Cartoon Network way. It feels like the network trusted the audience to keep up with the chaos. No long explanation. Just commit to the collision and ride it out. And that commitment is exactly what made the next crossover feel so huge. Because it wasn't just two shows meeting. It was a whole franchise showing up like it owned the place. 2. Phineas and Ferb x Marvel. Phineas and Ferb is a show where the laws of reality are basically optional. The boys build absurd inventions like it's a normal Tuesday. Their sister tries to expose them like it's her full-time job. A secret agent platypus fights a villain whose plans are simultaneously ridiculous and strangely ambitious. So Marvel showing up should break the show completely. Instead, the crossover's weirdness comes from how smoothly it fits. Because Phineas and Ferb already runs on big concept logic. Superheroes don't feel like an intrusion. They feel like the show simply upgraded from giant roller coaster to giant roller coaster. But now, Iron Man is here. The real fun is watching superhero seriousness bounce off the show's cheerful confidence. Superheroes are used to grim stakes, dramatic speeches, and identity burdens. Phineas and Ferb are used to saying, "We can totally fix this by building something huge," and then doing it without stress. That clash creates the comedy. Superhero intensity meets summer vacation optimism. It turns Marvel into a guest at a barbecue where the hosts are like, "Don't worry, we've got plenty of hot dogs and a device that can probably save the city." And the nostalgia factor? It's the event feeling again. This isn't a subtle nod. It's a big, celebratory mashup that makes your brain light up. Wait, these characters are sharing a story. It also taps into something kids' TV did really well. It made massive brands feel approachable. Superheroes aren't distant icons here. They're characters who can get pulled into a goofy backyard scheme and somehow still feel like themselves. And for number one, we're going full classic. The crossover that feels like it came straight out of the "How is this allowed?" Hall of Fame. 1. The Jetsons meet the Flintstones. This is the OG time mashup crossover. The one that feels like someone took two completely different TV eras, shoved them into the same blender, and hit puree with a grin. Because think about it. The Jetsons are the future. Flying cars, robot maids, push-button convenience. The Flintstones are the Stone Age. Rocks, dinosaurs. Everything is powered by some animal that looks exhausted and underpaid. So when these two worlds meet, the episode doesn't just give you character interactions, it gives you the ultimate culture clash. The humor comes from watching each family react to the other, like they've discovered an alternate dimension that makes no sense. The Jetsons show up with futuristic expectations, comfort, convenience, technology solving every problem instantly. The Flintstones show up with Stone Age confidence. "We don't need your gadgets. We've got a bird that can do it." And the crossover has this irresistible compare and contrast engine. Every futuristic solution gets matched with a prehistoric workaround. Every modern convenience gets answered with a caveman version that somehow achieves the same result, just with more yelling and more creature labor. That's what makes it so nostalgic. It feels like a true event cartoon, something bigger than the usual episode formula, built around the novelty of seeing icons share the screen. You're not watching it for deep lore. You're watching it because it's a once-in-a-blue-moon TV collision where the premise alone is the entertainment. And maybe that's the secret of the best kids crossovers. They don't need to be logical. They just need to be bold enough to make your brain go, "Oh my gosh, they actually did it." Conclusion. Kids' TV crossovers were never about realism. They were about permission. Permission to treat shows like worlds you could connect, remix, and smash together for one night of you had to be there television. And that's why the weirdest crossovers stick with us. They weren't shy. They didn't tiptoe. They showed up with a wild premise and total confidence. Like, yeah, the Spy Kids are hanging out with the Grim Reaper now. Yeah, the future family is meeting the Stone Age family. Just roll with it. Some of these crossovers worked because the tones actually complemented each other. Some worked because they didn't. Because the awkward clash was the whole joke. And a few worked simply because they felt massive, like the network was throwing a party for its biggest franchises. But they all hit the same core feeling. Surprise. That shock of seeing characters from different corners of your TV life share the same story. It made the world of kids' programming feel bigger, like everything was connected behind the scenes, even if it obviously wasn't. And honestly, that's a kind of magic we don't get as often anymore. Not because crossovers disappeared, there are plenty of shared universes now, but because the element of accidental discovery is harder to recreate. Back then, You'd stumble on one of these and feel like you'd uncovered a secret. So now I want to know, what's the weirdest kids crossover you remember? The one that made you stare at the screen like, how did this get approved? Drop it in the comments, because I guarantee someone else is going to read it and go, wait, I remember that too.